The National Football League has seen a lot of different quarterback archetypes. We've seen scramblers, pocket passers, improvisers, and plenty others. One style that usually comes with a negative connotation is the gunslinger. The definition among most is that these quarterbacks take risks that most don't by using a strong arm to throw into tight windows. These quarterbacks, while having a high touchdown count, also have an extremely high interception count. Now that we know what the term means, let's take a look at some quarterbacks in the NFL that perfectly fit the description. When thinking of gunslinging quarterbacks in the NFL, the first to come to most minds is Brett Favre. Favre played in the NFL for 20 years, starting his career in Atlanta for the Falcons. Favre would only play in 2 games his rookie year, throwing no completions and 2 interceptions. After the season, he was traded to Green Bay for their first-round pick. Favre would not be starting to begin the season. However, in Week 3, he would be thrown into the game after their starting quarterback was injured. Favre would go 22 for 39, throwing for 289 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. After the game, he was named the starting quarterback and would never look back. Looking at Brett Favre's highlights, you can see him often scrambling out the pocket and looking deep. This is where he would gain the term of a gunslinging quarterback, as he would take those risks others wouldn't. Using a strong arm, he'd often throw into tight coverage, resulting in touchdowns and completions. However, with those tight window thrown touchdowns would come a lot of interceptions. The theme of being a gunslinger would be apparent through his whole career. Favre finished his career in the NFL with the most interceptions ever thrown by a quarterback, beating second place by 59 interceptions. Favre's timing for these interceptions would be very poor at times. In his second to last year in the league, Favre would be playing for the Vikings and be in the NFC Championship. It was a tie game with 17 seconds left, and Favre threw this pass.
Brett Favre goes back to pass, he pumps. Now he fires over the middle, intercepted. I can't believe what I'm seeing right now. It was intercepted by Tracy Porter, near side to the 40.
Which would lead to overtime, and eventually the Saints winning this game. Next up is another notorious gunslinger, Jay Cutler. Cutler started his 12-year career with the Denver Broncos, where he would throw for 9,024 yards, 54 touchdowns, and 37 interceptions across 3 years. Cutler with the Broncos would regularly showcase his strong arm. He would show some glimpses of potential, even being named to the Pro Bowl in 2008, but ultimately would get traded to the Chicago Bears. Cutler would continue to throw high amounts of touchdowns, but high amount of interceptions as well. Cutler in these years would have a high tendency to make plays downfield, throwing deep to receivers. However, Jay Cutler would slowly start to become more inconsistent, as well not being a leader at all. Cutler would finish his career playing one last year with the Dolphins, throwing for 19 touchdowns and 14 interceptions, shortly retiring. Following Cutler is another gunslinger who had a long career with many different teams. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick would play for 9 different teams in his 17-year-long career. He was drafted in 2005 to the St. Louis Rams in the 7th round, coming out of Harvard. Fitzpatrick would have some playing time across his 2 years with the Rams. He'd throw for 777 yards, 4 touchdowns, but 8 interceptions. He'd be traded in 2008 to the Bengals, where he would play 13 games, throwing for 1,905 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Fitzpatrick would be traded again, this time going to the Buffalo Bills. He'd continue his career throwing more touchdowns than interceptions. As Fitzpatrick played more in the league, that trend would slightly change. However, Fitzpatrick would be very inconsistent. One game being named Fitzmagic, throwing multiple touchdowns and winning, and another game he would be called Fitztragic, throwing for no touchdowns and interceptions, losing the game. So far, this list has only been retired players, but what about some current examples of gunslingers? Let's talk about Jameis Winston. When talking about Winston, you might instantly think of his 30 for 30 year, where he'd throw for 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions. Winston is one of the biggest gunslingers in the NFL. Winston throws very inaccurate passes without pressure even in his face. Winston gets baited very easily, resulting in those high numbers of interceptions. Jameis is similar to Favre in the aspect that both throw aggressive deep passes, but ultimately Winston throws more interceptions and is way less consistent. Winston in his 2019 campaign notoriously threw for 33 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, which would get him traded to the Saints, where he would get limited playing time. The most current example of a gunslinging quarterback is Bills' Josh Allen. Josh Allen is a successful quarterback in the NFL throughout his 6 years in the league. Allen came into the league as a raw prospect, having an amazing arm. Many scouts had problems with his accuracy, footwork, mechanics, decision making, and especially the level of competition, as Allen was playing for Wyoming. However, under the right coaching, Allen has flourished in the league. Josh Allen has been constantly throwing for over 30 touchdowns for the past 3 years. However, in 2023, Allen would throw for 29 touchdowns and 18 interceptions. When watching him play last year, you could see him attempt to throw into tight windows, whether it being medium passes or deep. Allen looked to struggle. He'd also struggle when under pressure and trying to make plays using his legs. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know who you think is a prime example of a gunslinger in the NFL and in history.